I can ask, Lakana, you got good handwriting?
It's okay.
It's okay? Will you be my scribe?
Yes, sir.
So we want to address the question, let me get to where we are in the booklet. Beginning of module 1. Well, the goal for this is participants will begin the Carrying Evangelism course with a renewed understanding and appreciation of God's extravagant love. And we'll become acquainted with the materials, we'll experience some community, we'll do some small group stuff, and we'll better understand how God reaches out to us in love. That's kind of our goals for the first module. So it starts off by just a brief conversation about why, in your opinion, your perspective, are people reluctant to be evangelists? We're going to record our thoughts, and then we're going to go back to them the very last week, and we'll see what was said based on what we learned. So why are people reluctant?
Fear.
Fear? Okay.
A failure, maybe.
Okay. Fear of failure?
Feelings of inadequacy.
Feelings of inadequacy? What do you mean?
Like not sure you know what you're doing.
Okay.
Being goal-oriented rather than process-oriented.
My man.
That comes from being in class, right?
Yes. Goal orientation produces anxiety. It can magnify the fears and magnify the insecurities. That's a good one.
She can write, but she can't spell.
So here's what I learned about facilitating stuff in front of people. When I write on a board in front of people, my ability to spell decreases 15%.
Goal-oriented versus what?
Process. And sometimes I write smaller and then my writing goes up.
I think knowledge level of the Bible.
Okay.
It may be kind of.
Right. That's a good one.
Personal.
Responses for your service.
What do you mean?
Like if, whether or not you got the meaning across, if there's been any success, you would, they were going to go though, wouldn't they?
Yeah, probably.
Your personal relationship, not feeling secure about your personal relationship with the Lord. You debate on what's right.
Say yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, thanks.
That's a big one.
Like if you don't know, I don't feel like I pray enough, or I don't read the Bible enough. I don't know where I stand, so how am I going to try to tell you?
Some people, I think, believe that, well, isn't that what such and such job in the church is?
Oh, well, yeah.
That's the pastor's job, or some churches will have someone who heads up evangelism, and there's the pastor of evangelism. Well, isn't that what we pay his salary for? I support with my giving, so he can do the. That sort of deal. I think it's not for them. Any other thoughts? Evening. Good to see you.
Good evening.
Any other thoughts? Let's see what we got. Fear of failure, goal versus process orientation, inadequacies, knowledge level, personal relationship with the Lord, someone else's job.
But you know what I think? Being turned away from like time.
Rejected like?
Yeah.
Rejection? Okay. What about just a fear of talking to new people in general? We are on page 8 at the top. Focus note 1, discussion question, why are people reluctant to be evangelists? Well, sometimes people just don't want to.
Yeah.
Don't want to do that. I want to do this over here. That ain't my gift.
Yeah.
I gotta pray on it.
I need to stay in my gifting. So those are all good. So we're gonna kind of. Can you take a picture of those?
Yeah, sure.
And then when we get to the last lesson, then we're gonna kind of go back and look at these, and hopefully we'll be able to come to the conclusion that we will have addressed these issues for us. And wouldn't that be great?
Yes.
If we were able to successfully address all of those things through our time together, imagine the impact that could have upon us doing what Jesus told us to do. And that would be great. So thank you, Banner. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate your service. So, let's look at some of our stuff. So there's a table of contents at the beginning, right inside the opening cover of the book. And the first 6 lessons have to do with strengthening our own relationship with the Lord first. And by doing that, you can almost look knowledge level, inadequacy, personal relationship with the Lord. All of those things really could almost half of this stuff can be addressed with our own relationship to the Lord. And so the first section will address those, and then the last section, the last 10, 7 through 16, are really designed to, at the end of the first one, then they're going to introduce this approach, this kind of model, and we will have already experienced it going through these lessons, and then they're going to tell us, okay, this is what you just experienced, and now what we do as evangelists are going to be doing the same things with other people that we will have experienced in our own relationship with the Lord. So we have first-hand knowledge. And the interesting thing about it, this first section is talking about evangelizing the evangelist. And my mindset always connects evangelism with non-believers. But
Right.
there's a need to evangelize again and again the good news with people who are already in relationship with the Lord. And as we go through this process, we'll discover that whenever we're experiencing some of the things in life that cause us to realize we've been dependent upon something more than we've been dependent on the Lord, that creates another opportunity for us to re-experience the good news ourselves, like time and time again. And once we understand that process of how we experience the good news, not just the time we first believed, but over and over and over again, then that prepares us to help other people because we're constantly experiencing the good news ourselves. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's one of the values of this particular approach. It gives us an experience first, and then after the experience, then they say, well, this is what happened. And then they say, well, this is how you can do the same thing with somebody else. As opposed to just jumping in and saying, this is the plan of salvation, and this is how you do it. Those approaches tell you what to do, but they don't provide you an experience to re-experience the good news over and over again in your life. And so our growth is our preparation. Our own personal growth with the Lord it prepares us. And then the model just gives us a way to, okay, what just happened? You know, and how can I do that? How can I do that with somebody else? So those are the lessons. The next thing I have, pass it back to the window, is, has anybody gotten the optional book? I got good news. I have some. Anybody who wants some.
I don't remember what the optional book was.
Let's pass those out. So that's the optional book. We took the Caring Evangelism course, and this was going to be one of the courses that we taught. If you remember a couple years ago, they were on Amazon for like $1 a piece, and then we bought a bunch of them. Y'all remember that? Chad was with us, and he was coming to Bible study, and he found some, and he ordered a handful of them for like $1 a piece. So I had them in my office.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, so the reading assignment, did everybody get one of these?
Yes.
The reading assignment,
No.
need another one?
Yeah, two women.
2 more?
Yes.
Is the supplemental readings that come from this book. So if you want to keep on pace, the first one for next week, that one comes out of your participant manual, but the rest of the supplemental readings come from this book. So I highly encourage you. I only had 6, so I highly encourage you if you didn't get one tonight to order one on Amazon so you can keep up with the supplemental readings. Some of the things that are in here that are not in your participant manual are like different ways that you can talk about sin, different illustrations you can use to talk about this major point of sharing the good news. And so it kind of builds your toolkit. And then from there, you can, okay, this one fits me, or this one doesn't fit me, I like this approach better, and it just kind of builds your skill base. And so all of that's not in the manual, so make sure you get one of these. And sometimes throughout the course, it'll refer to some of the things in here. So if you take a look at the table of contents, you'll see the value. Chapter 4, once again, we talk about process versus results. Chapter 5, how to build a relationship. Wasn't that on here?
Number 2, would it be under goal-oriented process?
Yeah. Fear of talking to new people. Chapter 5, building an evangelism relationship. How to listen well. How to describe sin. How to talk about Jesus. 5 ways to describe sin. Chapter 12, or 11. Chapter 12, 8 ways to talk about Jesus. I mean, just a lot of different evangelism tools that you can refer to build up your skill base. And we'll have opportunities to practice some of these things as we go along. So it would be really good to go along with that. And then if you look at page 11, which is the end of session 1, you'll see a section called On Your Own on pages 11 and 12. And at the end of every chapter, you'll see something there that's optional, and it's just designed to help you interact with the material on a more personal level. And so that's another opportunity to kind of cement the learnings from that particular chapter. And I kind of looked through the first one, and there's some good stuff in there. So those are our materials, the book, reading assignment, the optional book, the On Your Own section at the end of the chapter. All of those things really okay. So we kind of get to our first goal of talking about God's love for us. And the book gives us a great parable from the Gospel of Luke, and what it means to be prodigal. And is everyone here familiar with the parable of the prodigal son? Anyone not familiar with that? So, one of the things that I found interesting in the chapter is this whole thought of what prodigal really means. And so, if I can get a volunteer to read the definition of prodigal under that focus note too.
Prodigal, given to extravagant expenditure, expending money or other things without necessity, not frugal or economical, extremely generous, lavish.
That's what prodigal means. That's what the word prodigal means. It doesn't mean, it's not a negative connotation. And I would have thought prodigal had a negative connotation, like wasteful or irresponsible, or, you know. So when they actually did the word study, I thought, isn't that interesting? That it just means extravagant. And it's listed in the Bible the parable of the prodigal son, but believe it or not, prodigal actually fits the father and not just the son.
Yeah.
In the parable, if that's what prodigal means, extravagant, spending money, going above and beyond, generous, lavish, all of those things, that in a different way fits the father just like it does the son. So here's the story. It's found in Luke chapter 15, and let's read through the story, and then as we read through the story, see if we can find the ways that the father is prodigal and not just the son. So there was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me." So he divided his property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country. And there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. When he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough to spare, but here I am dying of hunger? I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father, but while he was still afar off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son.' His father said to his relatives, 'Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it. And let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now his elder son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he got him back safe and sound.' Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him, but he answered his father, 'Listen, for all these years I've been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. When this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him. Son, you're always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found.'" In what ways was the father prodigal?
He showed compassion.
No, he laughed.
When he
Gave
gathered
him
all his
ring.
stuff,
Yeah.
Ring, robe, saddle.
So at the beginning,
Divided up the property.
he divided up his property.
Mm-hmm.
And, according to Jewish custom, that was something that only happened when you died. And so it was like, treat me as if you're dead and give me your life insurance. Now,
Yeah.
that was lavish. That was extravagant. So what other ways was the father prodigal?
The robe and the ring, like you said, I don't know how much value they had, but some value. And then killing the fatted calf.
Right.
Where it says, how many of my father's hired hands have bread enough, and to spare? So he was making sure that his servants, were well taken care of.
Yeah, even with his servants, he was prodigal. Not just to his son. Yeah. Any other ways that father was prodigal?
At the son's return, I mean, he asked, let me just be a hired hand, and the father is like, nope, we're throwing you a big party, I'm bringing the best food and giving you the best clothes, and just all overboard.
He called him son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the son treated him as if he was dead. And he called him son. He said, treat me as a servant, but he did way above. The servants only got bread. He pleaded with the other brother. That was extravagant. That was prodigal. That was over the top.
To change his mind.
Mm-hmm. To change his mind. And he said he had to do it.
Yeah.
Had to go over the top. What do you think motivated him to do that? That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
He was prodigal, but his prodigalness, I don't know if that's a word.
It's out there. Somebody will say it Sunday.
Prodigality, how about that? Was motivated simply by love. So now let's kind of turn the page and let's think about us and God. So we're going to take a few minutes, about 10 minutes or so. We're going to break in groups, and we're going to describe a time in our life when you experienced God's prodigal love. And so I'm going to start. And we're going to do it in two or 3 minutes. When I think about me experiencing God's prodigal love, one of the things that really comes to my mind was life after divorce. Because I just felt like, I blew it. This was it. I let myself down. I let God down. Man, my children. Even now, when I think back about the impact of divorce, I mean, the Lord has been very gracious, but the truth of the matter is, I just felt like I failed them in that regard. And not that I was being prodigal, it was just one of the low points in my adult life. I experienced God's prodigal love in ways that I never ever would have imagined. The first way I experienced His love was right at the time I was in divorce court. This church approached me about being interim pastor. And when I look back, that's prodigal love. That's extravagant. That's over the top. And ever since then, he has begun to restore in my life everything that I lost in divorce over time. Since that point in my life. I mean, I can think about everything from my relationship with him, to Sonia being in my life, to signing over this deed to this house, and me moving out the house but still being on the mortgage, and praying to God that everything would be all right so that my kids could have a place that was familiar, to driving old cars because I couldn't afford a car payment, to trading in my retirement account, my little pennies that I had saved up, and everything he has or is in the process of restoring. And to me, that's prodigal love. Yeah, I ain't deserve it, just like the younger one in the text. And the Lord found me and went over the top to show his prodigal love for me. Okay, break up in 3 groups of 3, and tell your prodigal stories of God's prodigal.
Comes in a lot of different forms, a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Constance?
He said it comes in a lot of different ways in different people's lives. What else did you discover about God's prodigal love?
It's patient.
It's patient.
Yes.
It's obvious.
Ah.
I mean, once you become learned or matured, at the time, you know, you don't, you just, ooh, I was lucky.
Right.
But it's not luck. I mean, now that you're mature, you know better.
Yeah. It's never deserved. Never deserved. Anything else you learned about God's prodigal love?
I have a question that concerns me. When we make that discovery, isn't that continuous sanctification, would that fall into that, with sanctified daily, is that bringing you to?
Well, it certainly encourages that process, yes. The more you become consciously aware that this is God's love, the attitude that God takes toward the undeserving, God's love will impact us when we properly attribute it to Him. Yeah.
So the prodigal of him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like relentless. God's prodigal love.
And it's more than one, it's over and over again.
It pursues us.
It's faith.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good news.
Yes, it is.
That's
Yes,
the
it
good
is.
news. And first, that's good news for us. Because that means we will constantly, as we grow, become more and more aware of the prodigal nature of God, like over and over again in our own lives. And hopefully we can look back and we can see God's prodigal love here, and there. And man, that's good news for us, and that's good news for the lost.
Because it's there for them too.
Yeah.
And that's something we can share with them.
Isn't that totally different from everybody sins, there's a consequence for sin, but to love, not that that's not true,
Right.
but that's a whole nother spin on how we share just based on, in this story, the brokenness of this younger son who becomes aware of his brokenness and realize, oh, I need to go back home, and how God responds to those who turn to him, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. He responds with prodigal love. Like, has there ever been a time where God said, boy, you better not do that again? It's always prodigal love. Like every time. Like, sometimes it's the same time and the same reason. The same issue, the same problem. And it's always prodigal love. It's never promised me, or, you know, look over the top of your glasses that my mom gave me in church when I was cutting up. You know, wow. That impacts us, and it prepares us to let people know how God will respond to you when you turn to him. The same prodigal love that he shows to you. And, you know, I don't know, I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but boy, just imagine what would happen if we shared God's prodigal love with somebody this week.
Right.
This is what God treated me when I didn't deserve it. Just without even studying anything else in this book, just reflecting on God's prodigal love and sharing God's prodigal love that he had for you with somebody else. That could be a great encouragement to somebody who is in the big pen of life, you know.
And it's done through people.
Yeah.
It's done through us.
Yeah. And get this, sometimes God's prodigal love will come through us and our care for other people.
Yeah, bless the Lord.
It'll be easier to show prodigal love to other people when we think back on God's prodigal love to us. And we can be extravagant, over the top, not cutting people off like God never cuts us off. Yeah. We should be more loving when we reflect on God's prodigal love for us. It ought to overflow. We ought to be prodigal in our love for people, just in general, just people in general, the lost, anybody, fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. Let's just be prodigal people.
I figured about on my way over here, there was an accident or something, and the lane was closed. And the people, you know, people keep flying up. They see the police lights up there, and they keep coming. And it's like, you ain't getting in front of me. And then I thought better about it, and I said, come on. But I was, it took me there initially, and I was like right there, and it's like, no, you should have stopped like I did. It's like, no, that's not right. So it's like, come on in, you know. 3 cars got in front of me. It's like, okay, come on in.
That's not part of us occasional. Sometimes you got it. Nobody gets it.
This is the good news for others too. As we experience God's prodigal love ourselves over and over again, we are better able to share it with others who also need our welcoming prodigal God. That's the first lesson.
Bless the Lord.
That's the first lesson. So take a look at the On Your Own. Reading assignment for next week is page 1 and page 3 of the manual. The learning tips and the forward. And then we'll build on that next week as we begin to talk about the one most important thing.